Once upon a time, in a small village nestled in the rolling hills of the countryside, there lived a farmer named Jack. Jack was a hard-working man who spent every waking moment tending to his land, planting and harvesting crops and raising livestock. He was a proud man, and his farm was his life's work. One day, a group of thieves began to terrorize the village. They would sneak in under the cover of darkness, stealing food and supplies from the villagers. No one was immune to their thievery. Soon the entire village was living in fear. Jack, determined to protect his farm and his family, decided to take matters into his own hands. He built a high wall around his property, installed traps, and even hired a guard to watch over his land at night. The thieves were cunning and relentless. They found ways to bypass Jack's defenses, stealing from him time and time again. Jack was at his wits' end, and he didn't know what to do. One night, as he was patrolling his property, Jack caught one of the thieves in the act. It was a young man, no more than 20 years old, with a look of desperation in his eyes. Jack could have turned him in. Something about the young man's expression struck a chord. Instead of calling the authorities, Jack decided to talk to the young man. He asked him why he was stealing, and the young man told him that he was struggling to feed his family. His parents were sick, and he had no other way to provide for them. Jack's heart went out to the young man. He remembered when he was struggling to make ends meet, and he knew how hard it was to provide for loved ones. So he made a decision. He offered the young man a deal: work for him on his farm, and he would provide for his family. The young man was hesitant at first, but eventually he agreed. Jack took him under his wing, teaching him the ins and outs of farming. The young man proved to be a hard worker. Soon he was like a son to Jack. As the months passed, the young man's family began to thrive. His parents recovered from their illness, and they were able to live comfortably thanks to Jack's generosity. But the other thieves were not so easily swayed. They continued to steal from Jack, and he continued to try and catch them. It was a game of cat and mouse, with neither side giving in. One night, Jack had an idea. He would invite the thieves to his farm, under the guise of a party. He would feed them, give them drink, and then confront them about their thievery. The night of the party arrived, and the thieves came in droves. Jack welcomed them with open arms, supplying them with food and drink. But as the night wore on, he began to confront them about their action. To his surprise, the thieves were not what he expected. They were not cruel or heartless, but rather desperate men and women who had been driven to thievery by circumstance. Jack listened to their stories, and his heart went out to them. He realized that they were not so different from him, struggling to make ends meet in a hard world. So he made them a deal: work for him on his farm, and he would provide for them. He would teach them the skills they needed to survive, and he would give them a chance to start anew. And so, thieves became farmers. They worked hard, learning the ins and outs of agriculture. They proved to be skilled and dedicated, and soon they were like family to Jack. Years passed, and Jack's farm flourished. He became known throughout the land as a kind and generous man, who had taken in thieves and made them into honest citizens. And Jack never forgot the lesson he had learned, that everyone deserves a second chance. and that sometimes the best way to stop thievery is to offer a helping hand. As the years went by, Jack's farm became a beacon of hope for the community. People from all over would come to visit, seeking advice and guidance from the wise farmer. Jack's reputation as a kind and generous man spread far and wide, and he became known as the farmer of second chances. One day, a group of travelers passed through the village, seeking refuge from a great storm. Jack welcomed them with open arms, offering them food and shelter. Among the travelers was a young woman named Sarah, who was fleeing an abusive relationship. Jack took her under his wing, offering her a place to stay and work on his farm. Sarah was hesitant at first. Jack's kindness and generosity won her over. She began to work on the farm, learning the skills she needed to survive. Jack taught her how to plant and harvest crops, how to raise livestock, and how to live off the land. As the months passed, Sarah grew stronger and more confident. She began to see a future for herself, one where she was free from abuse and able to live a life of her own choosing. Jack became like a father to her, offering guidance and support whenever she needed it. Years passed, and Sarah became a skilled farmer in her own right. She met a kind and gentle man named Tom, and they fell in love. They got married on Jack's farm, surrounded by friends and family. Jack's legacy lived on through Sarah and Tom, who went on to build their own farm and start a family of their own. They never forgot the kindness and generosity of the farmer of second chances, and they made sure to pay it forward whenever they could. And so Jack's story came full circle. He had taken in thieves and made them into honest citizens, and he had given a young woman a second chance at life. He had shown the world that everyone deserves a chance to start anew, and that sometimes the best way to stop thievery is to offer a helping hand. Years later, when Jack was old and gray, he looked out over his farm with pride. He knew that his legacy would live on, and that his farm would continue to be a beacon of hope for generations to come. And with that thought, he passed on, surrounded by the people and the land he loved.